Hey, Mike, how's it going, man?
Good, Frank. Good to see you.
Same here, man. What have you been up to?
Oh man, new year, feeling good.
Yeah.
Busy with work, diving right back into things. So that's
All
been
right.
fun.
Nice.
Enjoying the weather.
Yeah.
It's cool out. We don't get much
It's
of
cool.
that in Arizona.
It's like the low is like 40 degrees.
That's it. I know.
Yeah.
But
And
hey,
it's low for like 10 minutes. Then it gets up to 70.
born and raised Arizona, man, that's freezing to me.
Yeah, it is. Oh, man.
How about yourself, though? You have a good week?
Oh, yeah. Really good week. Really good week. Yeah. Actually, we'll talk about like as we're doing this work that we're offering up here in front of our audience, and me and Mike are actually, students of this work.
Absolutely.
And we just share what we're doing is we're sharing our what we're learning. So I think I told you about this guy. His name is Philip. He has these prophecies. He's a prophetic guy. And I ran into him it's probably 7 years ago, 7 years ago. I can't remember. But it was shortly after I had written my book. He got a hold of my book. And then we started running into each other. See, at the gym, running to different places. And
Did you know him before he got the book?
No.
Okay.
No, I didn't know him. And one day we ran into each other, and he's like, "Hey, not to sound weird, but I had this vision." And he starts telling me this vision that the Father and this Holy Spirit was around me and helping me work and stuff like that. I thought it was interesting,
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. And then he kept running to him. But really nice guy. He's not like a preacher or anything. And he would mention these visions, and he goes, does this make any sense to you? Because it doesn't to me. So it's not like he's preaching. He just had a vision. And I'm like, it's odd that you say that. And, I would tell him like what I was going through. Mm-hmm. Well, just this week, I was literally at the gym. I was trying to think, was it Friday? I was at the gym. I was finishing up. It's about 6 o'clock in the morning now. I got to the gym about like 4:30.
Okay.
And I'm getting ready, and he's never called me that early. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. And he goes, hey, am I bothering you? I'm like, no, I was wrapping my stuff together, putting in the bag, and getting ready to walk out. So I started the conversation with him. And he goes, I had this dream that you were given the key to understanding Christ neuroplasticity. And I was like, get out of here.
This is cool.
And he's never mentioned that word. Actually, he didn't even really understand what it meant to some degree at the time.
Yeah.
But he came to understand it, or he didn't understand if I understood it either. So as he went on and told me this whole vision he had, I'm like, all right, I got to tell you this. I said, at the end of this month and end of January, I'm heading off to do a workshop with this guy named Joe Dispenza, who actually uses the word neuroplasticity all the time.
Absolutely.
It's a process in which you change your thinking in order to control the body.
The way the neurons fire and wire together.
Exactly. So right now,
new pathways.
Yeah, right now, if we're and again, I get caught up in it too. So the outside world, my body will react to the outside world and send signals to my brain. So I'm in the same loop of It's not, it becomes hardwired.
If it's not new, it's hardwired. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So this teaches you to step out of the outside world and rewire your brain for a new you, or undoing the old programming, so to speak. But it was interesting, and it wasn't like I had any doubt that this thing was going to be good, but it just validated. So this is the act of, when we do this work, when everyone does this work, you're always going to get signposts along the way. And so when I mentioned back to him this thing, and I'm like, and this, every other word out of Dr. Joe Dispenza's mouth is neuroplasticity. And I'm like, I've known him 7 years, this guy, and he's never mentioned that. And he said it just came to him in his dream. And then I went to tell him. So when we start doing this work, when you're in the midst of doing this work, it's never done, by the way. It's constant. But these signposts that are so obvious. And then what it did is, I was excited about this thing anyway, but it amplified the excitement like something else. And right in that moment, I elevated to a completely different level. It's like I'm not even there yet. I'm not even at the conference yet. I'm not in that future moment yet, but it already happened. And that's the quantum field we live in. And that's what I like to get people to understand is, even if it took you 30 years to get into this humdrum world or life or lifestyle, you can get out of there in moments. But the key is not to try to get out there now. Just stay present, recognize where you are, enjoy where you are, even if you don't like it. You don't like it because you're always trying to get out of it. But when you become present, the universe moves in quantum ways. Again, I got this elevated feeling beyond any feeling I had before, just having a conversation with him. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to go to this thing and get back, you know? And I'm not even there yet. And this happened. So
I love that.
These are the signposts. This is how it works.
That's exactly what it is. That is the signpost. And like you were just kind of, touching on, it is when you bring up presence and you say be in that present moment, there is no other moment other than the present. And you'll hear Frank and I talk about this, but when we say you are already there or you have every opportunity already within you, what we mean by that is this presence, is this moment. It's in the silence. It's in the being that endless opportunities appear. And we get caught in our mind of past thought, future thought, what we got to do, what we got to get done, what we should have done, what we should have done, how we should have responded to someone. And we are never in that present moment. But when you're in the present moment, your wants, your desires, your goals, all of these are much more accessible, and they aren't distant ideas. In fact, they unfold just like Frank's talking about. So these signposts are more when you quiet the mind and you allow yourself to be in this moment, to recognize what this room feels like, smells like, just the space around you. You're not focused on this exterior, what's going on in the world, what could have happened, what should happen, all those types of things. You're just in that moment, and it's in that moment that these signposts appear, that these next steps are opened up to us. It's in that quiet space.
Well, remember what the actual work is. It's getting into the state in which you think that new job, that new house, the new car will get you prior to getting to it. So most of us are waiting for that to give us the excuse of feeling good. Hey, how's your day going? Oh, it's great. I got a raise. So you actually having the physical raise is why you're feeling good. The truth is, somewhere along the line you felt good, and this is why your boss gave you a raise, but you didn't put the correlation together, and then you did. Then you actually said it was because I got the raise I felt good. I'm like, that is not it. So when we stay in the present moment, you don't have to even close your eyes. You can be in the present moment. Like earlier today, I walked outside, and I was like thinking all these things I had to do, and all of a sudden, just a chunk of leaves just fell off the tree, and all of a sudden, it took me out of the future thinking, like, what I have to do today. And I was just present, and I just watched these leaves trickle down to the ground. And in that moment, it was a feeling. It had nothing to do with the leaves, but the leaves shook me out of anything because the leaves are happening now. And I'm like, wow, okay. It doesn't mean I don't anticipate my day, but I don't get stuck up in it because I can't do what I need to do in this moment. What I have to do at 4:00, it will create anxiety. Right now, it's
and we do this often with everything.
Yeah, we do.
This is why we are never in the moment. It's always okay. I just got to get to lunch.
Yeah.
Then I'll be able to relax at lunch. Then you get to lunch, and you don't find yourself relaxing at lunch. You're thinking about, okay, I just need to make it through the rest of the day.
Yeah, and when you get to lunch, you might have a temporary distraction and feel good. This is why we're always trying to get somewhere, because we'll get there. We'll get to lunch. 12:00 comes every day. Yeah. Bedtime comes every day. So there are these momentary distractions that make us feel good. This is why we look for them. If they never worked, we would never look for lunch or dinner or watch a TV show. But you realize they're temporary because that is not it. You're distracting yourself. You allowed yourself at 12:00 to feel good. Now, once you finish your lunch, you go on your way. Now, oh, shit, I gotta do all this stuff before dinner. I got to get home. Now the anxiety kicks back in.
Falling back into the mind.
Falling back into the outside world. But when we actually go in and just relax and allow it to unfold, all of a sudden the steps and all the situations and the steps that we need to do for the moment in which we're in the day, the activity, getting things done, actually appear. And the diagram is drawn out for us in an easier, more
Digestible?
or digestible, but just a simplistic way, more efficient way is what I'm looking for. So, if you're going to you have to do like 5 things that you have to do. I'm not saying don't do them, but all of a sudden, somewhere along the line, when I'm in the present moment, these things become effortless. Or somebody says, hey, I'll take care of this thing for you without even me asking. They just show up, and it's like, and I marvel over not getting the things done, but it's the effortless aspect, the ease in which I got it done. But I'm doing it. I'm not sitting on the couch. I'm not doing anything. But, just like a runner who runs effortlessly is still running. But they get into this. So when someone runs, what they have to learn to do is become buoyant. If you're not buoyant, you're going to hurt your knees. You're going to hurt your ankles. It's going to hurt. But once you become buoyant, and that's actually when you're moving, you become more buoyant. When you're steady, you kind of at your heaviest weight. So the more buoyant you become, the funner it is to actually run, to move. So buoyancy is just levitating to a different frequency. You're actually lightening up your body. At different levels, you have different degrees of weight in your body, but different levels, you have different weights of your body. And we know this. If somebody left the planet, you go a certain 30,000 feet in the air, and if you actually stand somewhere on the scale and it wasn't pressurized, but you have trouble breathing, you wouldn't weigh the same. Obviously, if you're on the moon, and you stepped on the scale, you wouldn't weigh the same. We can do this energetically. Now, it's not about, it's a good way to lose weight. I'm like, yeah, well, now you're still stuck in the old facet that you must lose weight to feel good or be good. And there's real no truth to that. There's no evidence to it. Health and weight have there is a correlation, but it's not a direct causation. But
when you're happy, the weight follows, the health follows,
Well, happiness is health.
Yeah, but you see what I mean?
But there's always more health and more stuff to get. And then the outside world will present itself. It has to. In other words, it's not about just having a dream and waking up and then sitting in a ditch. The dream will come true. But when the excitement is not seeing it coming. It's like that childlike state, like, the kid that has to wake up every day to go to school wakes up very tired. But the second they're going on a field trip, they're up at the front door before the parents are ready. Why? Because they know it's unknown. But you go to school, you sit at your desk, the teacher writes on the chalkboard and pull out this book, pull out that book. It's so humdrum. This is why children do not like it. And most children, especially at younger ages, the reason you can't contain them is because they want to just continuously move in their field of present moment. Kids are always present. What 5-year-old is looking in the mirror saying, I need to lose weight?
Yeah.
How am I going? They're running around the playground with each other, kicking a ball around, but they're not competing. They're collaborating. But then we teach them, you got to take this serious now. You got to beat that kid over there, and you got to do this. How many seesaws can you do in a day?
It's like it's all conditioning.
Yeah,
that's it.
Imagine like a 6-year-old. Okay, we're going to do 30 seesaws, 20 swings.
Well, I'm glad you say that, because that's where all of these ideas and these mental patterns come from. It's just early age of this is how it's done. This is how it's done.
What
this
happened
is
when people observe someone in a present state, they look at what they're doing. They don't interject what they're feeling. And this is why we try to feel good. That's how it's so subtle. So if I'm watching someone have a great time and like, that person's running around the circle, so let's build a track. Let's everyone get around the track. You're going to feel good. So now you make these kids get up and run around the track. It's like, oh, shit, I don't want a track. I want to invent some coding on my computer, Mm-hmm. No, you must run. It's going to make you feel good. Now the kid's throwing up on the side and shit like that. But it's like, the coach who did this watched someone happy. I'm like, yeah, that person was meant to run.
Yeah.
That kid was meant to code or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. So we think the doing is what makes us feel good. I'm like, no, the feeling is why we do. I climbed the tree because I felt good. The tree was just an expression of my feeling good. But the tree didn't make me feel good. I was already feeling good. That's what allowed me to climb the tree.
That's it.
So it's a subtle thing, but it is literally learning to put the horse, in front of the cart. And the world, when you examine somebody else, you're literally putting the cart in front of the horse, because you cannot examine someone from the outside world. You must go within. And it's not my job to examine somebody else. It's my job to examine how I feel. And I'm learning and I'm getting better at it, but I'm controlling my feeling. My mind is controlling my body. My body's the thing that feels. My mind is the ability in the quantum field to generate the frequency for the body to feel. But if I'm stuck in the outside world like I am, I don't say most of the time anymore, but I was most of the time. All of a sudden, if it rains, it sucks. If it's sunny out, I'm going to get, where's my sunglasses? It's always something that's aggravating no matter what's happening. But, hey, life's not bad,
Yep.
But I'm like, I got tired of it. And then, one day I found this book, and this gentleman was talking about this. And I'm like, wow, I never looked at it that way. And then I found another book, and then the journey began. And once I knew this, I couldn't unknow it. But there's more. The expansion never stops. So there's no end to this. And that's what excites me.
Absolutely.
I am never going to get to the finish line, because there is no finish line.
We are eternal.
We are eternal. Yeah, my corporeal self will, something will happen to it and it will disappear, just like an actor in a movie will disappear from the movie at some point, but the soul or the actual actor themselves, just the character disappear, but not the person. And that's the fractal of life. We look at everything, it's a fractal. So if you can look at a movie and your life is the same, just different entities, you're actually in it, where you're watching the movie. Now you're actually the projector in your movie. You could see your hands, you could see your feet, but you can't see your face unless you step in front of a mirror.
So what Frank's describing...
And make sure you get that mirror from Ace Hardware.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So you're not going back and returning it? So when Frank when he's describing this type of stuff, these feelings, this awareness, that's really what we're talking about. Is you become aware of what your body's processing. So you start to look at, or you kind of look at things like, wow, before in my life, what I was considering or qualifying as happiness were actually pleasures. And this is where I went wrong early on, is I thought happiness was the money, was the house, was the family, was this, and then you start to check these boxes off and you're like, wait a second, nothing's changing. And so it's just this constant loop. This is where you dive within and you start to see, okay, everything comes from within. And so when you're at this point, you start to, I guess, I don't want to say qualify. You start to look at things differently, where you used to say, this is happiness. You see it as, no, that's a pleasure.
There's a difference between pleasure.
There's a huge difference.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yeah. And that right there is a huge step in the direction. No longer do you need that trip to Hawaii. Do you need that X dollar amounts each month? Whatever it may be, you start to see you've been telling yourself pleasures are happiness. And so you don't feel happy because you're always chasing these pleasures. Yeah. So you don't allow yourself to feel happy ever. But happiness is a state. Happiness is something you are. It is not something you obtain, seek, find.
Yeah. Yeah, peace is who we are, and happiness is in that field. But yeah, pleasures will actually, if we're seeking pleasures, that's where addiction comes from.
Yeah.
Sex,
drugs, alcohol, you name it.
It doesn't mean you don't do these things.
No.
It's just your mind has control over them. So you choose to eat this or whatever, but you don't habitually do it to feel good. Like you eat for sustenance. You drink for social being, but you don't do it to like, oh, I have to have a drink. I had a hell of a day. Mm-hmm. That's now you're trying to replace that pleasurable thing, and it's temporary, and it then diverts back onto you, and it actually starts to defeat.
Well, that's it. Is you chase these pleasures all day long, and then you start to realize, oh wow, so I'm getting the sex I wanted. I'm getting the alcohol I wanted, the drugs, whatever. But then afterwards, the hangover, the next day,
Well,
whatever
not
that
even
feeling
that.
is, you're
What
like,
happens
you feel
is-
empty. So you go
Yeah.
back to the chase. You're chasing a pleasure. You're not chasing anything that's sustainable.
Yeah, and you have to constantly, because the way we're wired, you have to constantly up the ante. So if it was one beer that got you happy, by the end of the year, you're drinking a 12-pack. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It never ends. So that's how addictions begin. You couldn't control it. So once you realize that happiness doesn't come from the external world, it doesn't mean you don't play in the external world. It doesn't mean you don't experience it. But all of a sudden, people that gamble, that were gambling $5,000, now to feel excited, they have to have $10,000. At what point does it end? Till you're living on the street and your house is gone.
Well, people that fall into these addictions, too, when you fall into addiction, all you've done is you've created a habit, and the habit's now taking control. And so
Your body's taking control of the mind.
Yeah, you are no longer the observer. You are experiencing only the observed. And so, like, when you're in this state, not only is it difficult to see beyond or to experience it and know that there are other opportunities all around you, but you start to associate with the patterns. So people start saying, oh, I'm an addict. You are not an addict. You are not an alcoholic. You have drank consistently for the last 10 years and created a habit in which now each day you are drinking because your body depends upon it. Just like you started drinking or using drugs, you can step back and wean yourself off of that. You are not an addict. To claim this is to hold yourself within this very tight little box. You're putting yourself in a box. You're not the activities. You are the witness to the activity. You're the witness to what's going on. So when you're associating with the steps or with the walking or with the activity, you become the activity. You're not that. When you create the space between it, it allows you to change that activity or to change that process because now you're aware of it.
Yeah, just like a persona, and that's what it comes down to. So an actor will actually choose a character. So they choose the character, but most people don't realize they're choosing a persona and a character. They think they are it. So they don't have the separation between who they really are and the persona that they're projecting out to the world. Like an emoji, right?
Yeah.
That's what we are, all emojis, right? And so when you get to choose the emoji, you make it the way you want it. That's the way you do it. But if you think you're it, you don't separate. You're not the emoji. You actually think you're this thing going through it. So like Mike said, your persona was the alcoholic, the drug addict. So when you actually go in and change your neuroplasticity and change, you actually change the persona. So like Tom Hanks went from Forrest Gump to playing, another role of his. He had many roles.
Big whatever. Yeah, there's a million.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. I can't name. Yeah. Mr. Rogers. So you look at Mr. Rogers' character and Forrest Gump, they're completely different people. All right. So, but the actor Tom Hanks had the capacity to separate the persona of Forrest Gump to Mr. Rogers. And this is what we're telling you. Step back and choose the persona that you want to have in the world in which you're in. You know, because I do this all the time. Like if I'm in a certain place, I take on a persona because I want to meld in. You know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But if I go like, this is my persona and I'm not making anyone change me no matter where we're going, I'm like, all right, good luck with that, buddy. But that's not who you are. So you angrily hold on to this thing. Well, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who you are, like Mike said, is the projector of the persona. You aren't the persona.
You are
but
what you say you are.
But we are connected to the persona. But if you're too close to it, you lose the enjoyment of it. If you step back, then you excite. Just like an actor enjoys the roles in which they play, even if they're playing someone that's living on the street, right? Like, a lot of actors have played people down and out.
Absolutely.
Jamie Foxx played, it was based on a true story, a guy, I guess he was a celloist that was living on the street in L.A.
Oh, yeah.
And so he chose to play that. Like, why would someone like Jamie Foxx, who's very wealthy and had everything going for him, play that? Because he knows it's a persona, and there's fun in the persona. There's a lot of fun in life when you separate yourself from the character and then you enjoy it no matter what it is. Don't, if you're the king in the movie or the peasant, it doesn't matter. You better play that role to its fullest, because the peasant can win the Academy Award. The king doesn't always win the Academy Award if that's what you're looking for.
It's funny how
the king isn't the best person in the show. Sometimes you don't even know who the king is when the peasant, because the story is about the peasant.
And when we give an example like that, we don't mean you are destined to play a role. You can change any role at any given time. You can be the peasant, you can be the king at any given moment. And there is no one set way that you must live this life.
Yeah, you can expand, because a lot of times people do come with a potential.
Oh, of course.
Right? But you can expand within that field of potential. So, you look at somebody that, like an athlete, when they were early on, they understood that their potential was athleticism, whatever sport it was. But then as time went on, they chose, and it wasn't because they got old. It was because they kept moving in an expansive way. But people will say, oh, it's because they got old, they retired. But they moved on. So that athlete is no longer playing in the sport in the way they did, but they're not like shoved in a locker somewhere like, you're done. No, they can have just as much exhilaration. I remember years ago, this is so many years ago, but it was a Super Bowl, and it was Super Bowl Sunday, and somebody was sitting down, and Terry Bradshaw was one of the he was going to be one of the side speakers of, because there's a lot of people talking that day, but talking about it, and it looked like they were in like a bar, but I think it was one of those clubhouse or places in the stadium. Yeah. And he's sitting there, had a drink in his hand. Seats. Yeah, box seats or whatever. And the guy's like, a young guy, he goes, hey, and he never, I don't think this guy had played football. He was just a sport announcer. And he goes, when you look out there, don't you miss it? He goes, hell no. I love my life right now. And I was like, that was amazing. Because Terry Bradshaw is one of these guys, whenever I see him, he's always happy. And it's not like I run into him at the grocery store. But he's always happy. So he enjoyed his life when he was a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But he still enjoys his life. He doesn't like, oh, I wish I was still playing. I'm like, no, because he took on a different persona. But the attitude he has is what he carries with him through his whole life. So it's the attitude. And then what attitude I project onto the persona is the emphasis on how the persona does. That's what we want.
Attitude, perception, whatever you want to call it. This is what we're talking about.
Attitude comes from that field of energy in the quantum field. If I know that this is going to continue to expand like a child, my attitude is amazing. I'm looking forward to the unknown in my future, just like that child is waiting at the front door for the parents to take them to school so they can go to the field trip. They still don't know what's going to happen. They know where they're going, but they're like, oh my God, something different is going to. You're going to a museum, child. I know, but I don't have to sit there and pull my pencils out and put them on the right and put my name at the top of the thing. And I'm like, it's like, I got excited to go to a museum.
I love going on field trips. I know what you mean.
But I used to try to hide when I go to museums. I remember when I was a kid, I think it was 6th grade, the King Tut exhibit came to New York.
Oh, yeah.
And so we took it. And some of the best parts of the trip is in the school bus. And especially when you hit a pothole, there's no shocks on these things. Everyone jumps up. Yeah, it's funny. It's like you're on a ride.
I drove on the school bus.
There was like the one time when the teacher just tolerated stupidity. It's really when in the school bus.
People throwing stuff, doing stuff, being loud.
That's what I said up front. They looked forward. They didn't see anything. It's the quantum field.
But it's that energy that you're describing, the unknown, that keeps us going. Yeah. What's going to happen? Who's going to say what?
Yeah.
That's what keeps life exciting. The reason we find ourselves so in this humdrum lifestyle and this, it's because you already know what's going to happen next. And when you already know what's going to happen, you're just repeating the same garbage day in, day out. I know I'm going to eat this at lunch. I know this is going to happen. I know this is due by this time. I know. And so that's what you're bored of. That's what's drained your energy. You have no energy because you're giving your energy to these ideals, to this program, to this, hey, this is how life runs. That is not the case.
And
you have the ability to change that.
And why we suffer is one reason why we suffer, because innately, already it's in us. We want to expand.
We know it.
You want to expand, even if there's a part of you that says, I don't want to change. It doesn't matter. Change happens regardless if you want to go with it or not. And when you allow yourself to witness the expansion, it's fun. But when you fight against it, you're still expanding. But then it comes like a medieval device where you're holding on to this idea, and the new ideas are expanding, and all of a sudden you're being pulled, and that's what's happening. The pain comes from not letting go. It doesn't mean this idea was bad or poor. It's just no longer. Like when I eat lunch, I have to let go of lunch in order to get to dinner. And I do. But if I'm still trying to hold on to lunch, this is where we suffer. If you're still looking for that perfect meal you had when you were 5, you're in trouble.
I also want to bring up that in our heads, when we're carrying a lot of thoughts about the past, a lot of thoughts about the future, I remember this very well, thinking that if I wasn't thinking about something constantly, my world would fall apart. I would forget to pay bills. I would forget to talk to the people I needed to. I'd forget to do what I need at work. Not even that.
No, I know.
It was just my head was constantly filled with, don't forget about this. You need to do this. What about this? And I was so afraid to let go of that head chatter because I thought my life would just fall apart. I thought I wouldn't get things done. I wouldn't do laundry. I wouldn't pay bills. No, guys, I'm telling you, it is mental patterns that are running in your head, and you have the ability to say, hey, no, the infinite intelligence within me, my subconscious mind, knows and will complete whatever needs to happen. It's this knowing, it's this planting and this feeling of I don't need to constantly run around my head. That's what gives you more and more of this life energy, because no longer is your time spent with your mind all running around in the past or all running around what needs to be done in the future. It's this steady, comfortable knowing. All will be taken care of as long as I stay present in this moment and move forth.
Yeah. But I was joking about the thing, but now it just hit me. There's a correlation. So a lot of people would probably say, like 40 years ago, say, like, my life would be easier if somebody would pay my bills. So then someone invented bill pay. It'd be easier if someone could bring the food to me. So now to eat Uber Eats. But yet you're still miserable.
We have everything we could possibly need.
Everything you could possibly do. You could sit there and do everything on the couch. You could watch a movie, do your banking, pay your bills, text your friend, do all this, but you're still miserable. Why? Because you're still focused on the outside world and what you're lacking. And there is, in the outside world, you can't see anything new. But when you go within, you could be the creator of the new thing, because everything that we're experiencing was once imagined. So when we go within and imagine something and offer it up, like this conversation me and Mike are having, people have had conversations in this realm, but never had this particular conversation. Me and Mike will never have this particular conversation ever again. And we just stepped into the unknown, having this conversation. Me and Mike are just sharing our experiences. We're not trying to teach anyone anything. If you pick something up, it's because you're remembering what you know.
So what Frank was just saying about how we have everything at this moment, we live like kings, all of us.
More so than King Louis.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Better than kings in the past. We have vehicles to drive. We have hot water. We've got shelter. We have food. We have clothing. All these different items, right? So our lives have been getting better and better materially in huge amounts, over the last, 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whatever. So why is our happiness not increasing? Why, now that we can, by the touch of a button, have food arrive, touch of the button, have bills paid, a touch of the button, have whatever, program we'd like to watch on the TV, why are we not happy? Because of the way we are thinking. If we aren't grateful for these items, if we don't see the ability, the opportunities all around us, we are creating a space of unhappiness. We are creating this I'll be happy when. It is a state that doesn't exist. You are putting off your happiness simply by saying, I don't have enough of what I need right now. Well, what is that? And then you'd say money. Okay, well, what would you do with that money? And, I would buy this, or I buy this house. And you're just coming up with ideas and kicking it forward when you have everything you need to be happy at this very moment.
Yeah, so what's happening is all those things are pleasure sensories.
Yeah.
So when I hit the button and I put on, what movie I want to watch instantly from my living room, I have to go make a plan to go to the movie theater. And then I get to another app and have food delivered so I don't have to go out to eat, so I can have dinner and a movie right at my own house. These are pleasure sensory things. They're outward things. They'll always fail you. They're shortcoming. But when you elevate above that and go within, you actually create the pharmacy within, and you need nothing without. But yet you still experience the outwardly world, but you no longer have to have it. So when it flees, your feelings don't go with it. So when the movie ends, you feel bad. When the meal ends, you feel bad because it's gone. But when the movie ends now, I'm like, wow. I go on to something else. When the meal ends, I'm like, wow, because I don't allow myself to go with the fleeting outside world. I'm containing it. The outside world is always fleeting.
Always.
Always fleeting. My corporeal persona is fleeting.
Yeah. Our
bodies
are dying. No, you're right. Yeah. We're dying right now.
Well, we're expanding and dying or whatever. Well, we're transforming into something else. Because someone's like, well, there really isn't any death. And even in a tree or a dead body, there's organisms that are alive. They're eating up the body to resoil the planet so trees can grow and fruit can be eaten, all that type. So we're just constantly transforming energy. So energy, if we are energy, it never dies. It's just constantly transforming. But while I'm in this corporeal body, I'm going to use it just like the car. I'm going to use it to its fullest. I'm not going to put it in the showroom and wax the car and never drive it. I'm going to use this baby. But I'm going to take care of this baby. And how do I take care of it? By closing my eyes to the outside world and allow myself to attach to the fleeting world outside of me, which is going to create stress and anxiety. And then my body takes over and it gets all riddled. We know the biology behind it now.
And guys, when you jump in and start doing these practices, well, like for me, I was very much so caught in the person. And when I first heard these concepts that Frank and I are discussing, something within me knew.
You're remembering.
Yeah, there you go, remembering it. But there's a reason when you're listening to us talk about these things, there's a feeling of truth. And why you're listening to it is there's more to this. And I remember this feeling well going, okay, I can feel the attachment to that. I know this is right. It's kind of like when you were a kid and you knew when you were comfortable when you got home, or you knew when you were uncomfortable when you were around a stranger, or your body kind of tenses. Whatever that feeling is, And so listening to these concepts, I knew there was truth to this. And like Frank was saying, it was a remembering. And so I started moving towards these concepts. And what I started to do was I started to implement different habits. And I started to clear my mind, not only through meditation. This helped me, allowed me to quiet the space. But now when thoughts, especially any thought that is against not in support of what my goals are, I let go of it immediately. And before, I would struggle with it and say, oh, there's a reason I feel this way. And that was just me creating a little mental mind pattern about why that needed to stick with me. And that's not true. And as you begin to clear these old mind patterns, this is when opportunities start to unfold and the signs start to appear. So when you start to move in this direction of quieting the mind, of getting rid of that old head chatter of negative self-talk, and putting in new, I am divine peace. I am divine love. And the point of affirmations is not to just sit there and say something nice about yourself to make yourself feel better. No, what you're actively doing is reprogramming your subconscious mind. So you're going in, you're planting a seed, and you're watering it by repeating that mantra, if you will, or that affirmation anytime you feel a negative or unpleasant thought come in. You shift the direction in the direction you'd like to go. And as you do this, it gets easier and easier and easier. Because at first, when you're doing this work, it seems difficult, because that's the old program. But as you move forward, as you continue with this, it gets easier and easier, and life truly begins to open up for you.
Yeah, because when we actually move into what we call the unknown, there comes a point where you don't even need the mantra. Elon Musk does not walk around saying, I'm abundant, I'm abundant, I'm abundant. He is abundant.
It's a known.
When you're healthy, you just are. You don't need to repeat it. Sometimes we have to remind ourselves, but when you move into the unknown, the child doesn't say, I'm excited, I'm excited. They are. They're oozing excitement. And in the excitement of the unknown, the reason we don't think is because there's nothing to think about. I can only think about the experience I had yesterday and project into my future. A thought can't come in of something I haven't experienced. So when I move into the unknown, there is no thinking. There's this response. There's a feeling and then a response.
And you can control that
But if
feeling.
I'm thinking I fell into an old pattern state, I do it. But then I get out of it by just going into the unknown. And how do I do that? Just close my eyes? Or sometimes I could be doing when I'm driving and just look at a leaf fall. There's no thought about that. It's just happening. And I'm like, oh, now I'm in the present. When I'm in that present moment, I'm in the unknown. It's when I fall out of the present moment, in a past cycle of thought and trying to project it into the future, which is creating anxiety and depression. Even if it's an old thought that was good, an old memory, like, oh, remember that time in high school when you were the captain of so-and-so and this and that? And then you realize I'm no longer in high school. I'm not captive in anything. It's going to turn into depression. Even that great moment in which you isolate is a great moment. That was a great moment, but it wasn't the only great moment. So when you actually try to go back, I would use that moment to generate the feeling, but disassociate the moment of you becoming something from the feeling. You felt something. That's why the outside world noticed it. It wasn't because you were the captain you felt good. You felt good. You were worthy of being a captain. So then get back to that feeling. So memory is good for that. How did I feel? Now drop the damn story, because the story is going to drive you nuts because you're no longer in high school anymore, and you can't be in high school anymore. You're here, nor would you want to.
That's it.
Especially with all the bullshit going on in high school.
Seriously, but you're so right about that, Frank. We romanticize about our past way too often, and so we're like, oh man, it would
Springsteen, glory days.
Look at even like with the previous president, make America great again. He's using what they're doing. This is all a mental game. It's the past was always better because it was known, and high school was great. College was the years. No, you're actually making a mental picture of what you experienced and often lying about it, like making the situation, this was better because of this, and you amplify it in your mind and you create this feeling of how great it was, in your youth, in all of that. Forgetting all of the, trials, tribulations, stress, awkwardness, all these things. So we make these ideas in our head that things were so great.
They were great.
Well, yes, I'm not saying they weren't.
I'm saying, but
the way we look back on them, we put them on a pedestal.
Yeah, but I'm saying, watching a great movie 20 times doesn't make it any greater. So the movie you watched that was great, I'm like, you got to move on to another great movie. And so it's not that we disenfranchise or disassociate or disillusion ourselves from the past. There was nothing wrong with the past. We learned stuff. It was great to an extent, but we're moving in an expansive world where we want to move to an unknown great.
That's it,
and that's what it is. But I'm not going to say it was it was great, but it really wasn't great, because all of a sudden now my future might not be. Oh my God, it wasn't great. No, it was great. I have the ability to perceive my past, my present, and my future however I want. But if I keep trying to perceive my past and pushing into my future, eventually I'm just going to get tired of going to that revolving door over and over and over. I'm sorry, how many times can you watch a movie until you get bored of it? Create a new movie.
That's it.
Yeah.
But when we look back at something and put it above a current state, this is like a moment of stagnation. You can't
Yeah.
be looking back and say, oh, those were the days, when you have so much endless opportunity in front of you. We think, because of how we experience and take in life, that certain situations are better than others. And in reality, it's just it's the story that our mind is telling us about that experience. Like Shakespeare said, there's nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. This is the story of life. How are you thinking? Are you thinking in the direction, that you would like to experience a preferential, fun, joyous, blessed state? Or are you looking back saying things will never be as they were? They will never be as good as they used to be when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Because that is what you'll experience. Thinking makes it so.
Well, also, too, think about this. You can only think about a state you've been in. Think about how many states you haven't been in. So if I've never been to like a place on this planet, I really can't think about it. I just have to go. I can think about California, I can think about New York, I can think about here, I can think about a multitude of places I've been to. And it doesn't mean I don't go there, because every time I go there, I have a different experience. But I can't think about Brazil because I've never been there. There might be images I had about, so I can actually project onto it. But we're talking about states. I don't know how many numbers of states are out there, but it's infinite, right? But I'm striving for the unknown to a state, and in that moment, I don't even have to think. I'm just heading into it. I'm like, wow, that was good. Well, there's more to come. Wow, that was great. It's like traveling around the world and eating different cuisine, so to speak. Yeah, you don't know what to think about it because you've never eaten it. But we have a memory and like, okay, I prefer that, I don't prefer that. There's nothing wrong with that. We have a preferential setting. But because I don't prefer something doesn't mean it damns my life. Like, I've traveled around the world enough. I prefer warmer weather at this moment in time. It's my personal life. But it doesn't mean I hate Alaska at all. If I want to go ice fishing, I'll go there. But for not that long of a time. But
Too damn cold.
Actually, I would. Yeah, I'm getting into I've been doing it for like 4 years, but jumping into ice water. But I'm doing it from the point of vantage of Arizona, so it's a lot different then. But nonetheless, it's going into the unknown and doing something different is where the excitement comes. That's the childlike state that Christ was talking about. Head into it. You can't think about it. You just got to do it. But when you do it with excitement, you are safe. If you do it with fear, do not do it, because fear will bring up the thing that you're actually thinking about scary. So be careful what state you're in as you're entering to a new state.
Like Frank said, it's like putting goggles on, okay? If you've got your fear goggles on, you're going to experience fear.
You will.
If you got your happy goggles on, you're going to experience happy situation. So how are you looking at life? What are your goggles?
We should start like happy glasses. We just do comfy happy
it's
glasses.
funny. I heard Ram Dass say it one time. I think he was talking about it's like a radio, and you tune to a different station. You tune to a different station.
Yeah.
If you don't like the station, you tune to a different one. We have that same ability all day long with anything we're experiencing. We're choosing to say, I don't like this situation. Okay, if you don't like it, let's look at it differently. What can make this situation more preferential, in your opinion?
That's it, yeah, and just soften it up.
Yeah.
And then eventually just detach from anything that, if you don't, like eventually when you figure out your non-preferences, you get really good at it. You stay away. You naturally stay away from those things.
Well, we get angry at something that has already unfolded, and this is what's so funny about this is we think so as we're experiencing, the words are coming out of my mouth.
Yeah, we're always planning in our head, and if the plan doesn't work out, I get upset. I'm like, well, what are you planning? You can't plan for the future.
That's it. As I'm talking right now, this moment is unfolding.
You can project the energy field and what you want to see in the future, but the plan is not us. Everyone, this axiom. You want to hear God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Yeah, right.
Because the field of quantum, the quantum field is what's creating the plan. So my ability to step in, when I'm conscious, I have free will. So when I'm consciously choosing a feeling, stepping into the unknown, it then becomes determined, the experience. But because I don't know about it, that's the excitement. That's where I learn. Like, wow, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know enough to know what's supposed to happen. But I'm entering the field with excitement and faith, and that's why it always turns out excitement. But when I don't, I get the same. I get, oh, shit, this didn't work out the way I thought it did, because that pleasurable moment back then, and this person did this, and it didn't turn out that way. And they, instead of putting the mustard on the side, they put it on the thing, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, my God. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. When you see yourself blaming the outside world and saying this out here is causing my unhappiness, that's how you know you're stuck.
That's a disease.
That's how you know you're stuck.
It's a mental disease. Yeah.
I'm not happy because this person did this.
Yeah.
You have now given away all of your power, all of your consciousness to the outside world.
Yeah.
Because this didn't happen, like I needed it to. I can no longer be happy. That is absolutely gibberish, foolishness, just not truth.
Yeah.
No truth whatsoever. So if you find yourself blaming an event, blaming a person, blaming a situation, whatever outside of you, this means it's your turn to go within. What do I need to learn from this? Why am I blaming this event outside of me?
Yeah, and the first question you ask yourself, is it worth feeling bad because this happened? This thing happened. It rained. Someone hit my car. But do I want to add to the insult of injury by feeling bad about it? Yeah. So you ask yourself, is it feel? So yeah, first your your response of a car getting hit is get upset, but now you have the control of actually diminishing that. So instead of taking a whole year of being upset someone hit your car, you could get over it in 5 minutes. I'm not saying like, oh, thanks for hitting my car. That's
No.
But all of a sudden, when you get into these states, you find out your car doesn't get hit as much. You ever notice people are getting a lot of accidents? They're all over the place. They're not even like, oh my God, I don't know what's happening. I'm like, dude, you don't look out the windshield of your car.
You're
like,
so caught up in your mental chatter.
Even if all you're looking at the windshield of your car, you're in a haze. You're all over the place. And how do I know this? Because I used to drive like that when I was younger.
Me too.
I did. The tree jumped out in front of me. Like, what? Yeah, the tree wasn't there a minute ago. And next thing you know, it's right there. The cop's like, yeah, shit, what are you smoking, kid?
Yeah, no, that's shit.
Like, I don't smoke. Ask my dad.
We create the most ridiculous excuses and blame everything outside of us.
And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. And this is what karma is, guys. When you're blaming things and saying this outside of me is the reason this is happening, that event, that person, that situation will continue to appear in different forms, different experiences, different feelings, until you go within and say,
and step above it.
I am the solution. I am the all resolve, you know?
And when you step above it, you actually get out of the field of karma.
You do.
Karma is a teacher. Karma is like, hey, how's that working for you?
Yeah.
Oh, you haven't learned a lesson? And guess what? It's not about telling someone they have to get over it. Because when I first started down this path of reading these books, the first thing I would do is think about someone I know that needs this information. And I realized it's me who needs this information. Don't preach to people.
I did the
It's
same
annoying
thing.
because if someone preached to me, I would have smacked them upside the head.
But that's like one of the first things you learn is you start to see, so the outside world, this is what really allowed me to see that the outside world is a reflection of me.
Yeah.
Is what you just described. Because I started to realize that too. I'm like, wait. When you're thinking about, this applies to this person and this, you start to see your attention go all around.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I have been giving my power away to people, situations, events, all this type of stuff my entire life, never taking full responsibility and accepting everything as it is and my role in it as the creator.
Yeah, and you're starting to see it because I know people that get into the new age stuff, and not again, I'm not here to label anything, but what I've noticed is they're trying to control the world in a different order. And I'm like, you're missing the point. This physics. I don't care if you're new age or old age. Physics is physics. The calculations are there. So you're now trying to get everyone outside of you. If everyone would just meditate, we would live a great life. I'm like, you meditate and live a great life. Leave those people alone. Maybe they don't need to meditate. We don't know. But everyone's out there struggling to get people to be vegans and eat this and drive this car and do that and think this way. If you're thinking that way, you're bad. And, I don't care how you think. I don't care if Trump's the president or Biden's the president. I don't give my energy to them. I wish them well. But if you're trying to control the outside world, this is why we're in this mess.
And then when you get to the point Frank's talking about, you start to see that all of these events, all of these details, it's all mind.
Yeah.
Everything you're experiencing is just these little details reflecting back to you what you need to learn about yourself. It's...
Well, if you don't separate from it, you don't even know what mind is.
But I mean, like, all details are irrelevant.
Yeah, but people get caught up in them because their body's controlling their mind rather than mind controlling the body. The mind would be the horse, the body would be the cart. But if you put the cart in front of the horse, holy hell, it's not going to move as well because the horse has to push the cart. It's a very laborious act.
Well,
but when you put the mind in control of the body, when you settle down, when you all of a sudden you find yourself getting upset because someone cut you off in traffic. Oh, I don't want to feel upset because if I get upset, I'm more likely to get into an accident. So if you have to use that story, go for it. But then breathe in, breathe out. You know, if you have to tell your story, that person has a sick child in the car and they're trying to get to the hospital. Whatever story, if that can ease you down, it wasn't the story. It was your mind controlling the story, which allowed your body to control. The story then became the placebo or the permission slip. It wasn't even the story.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
No, I know exactly. So what you're describing, too, has allowed me to get out of that mental trap because I'll say to myself, I know in this state of frustration or anger, no good can come from this.
Yeah.
So if somebody cuts me off and, I get angry or I get a sensation, where I'm upset, I know in that moment there is no feeling of good or preferential experience that will come from it if I continue moving in that direction. So I have to pump off the foot off the gas, let go of that situation because I understand if in a upset, angered, twisted, mental, whatever state, no good will come from that. And so you can change the story. That guy cuts you off and you have to run on the brakes. I'll say something in my head like, man, if that guy didn't do that, I could have been hit by the vehicle passing through running that red light 10 feet ahead of me. And you're just changing the mental story behind the event. So now you're not upset that this guy cut you off. In fact, you're saying, I am so grateful this guy cut me off because I could have been hit by that gentleman that ran the red light.
Yeah, but what you're really grateful is you actually contain...
It's all stories you're playing with in your head.
Now, to finish off here, the true work is this. When you go into meditate, when you close your eyes, you're shutting out all five senses as best you can. And in there, when you go close, you put your focus on a mantra or you listen to guided meditation, you have some nice music playing or no music playing. All of a sudden, you fall into this natural state, and what happens is you constantly rise up. You start to transcend. And when you start to transcend, you're reaching different feelings and you feel good. The more you do it, the more, and I'm going to use this word, you get addicted to it. So now when someone cuts me off in traffic, I'm sorry. I feel too good to even get upset. I don't need a story now. I don't need any story because the more I do this, the more I am in this state. And no matter what happens, I don't allow myself to get out of it. That's why it's work. I don't allow myself to get out of shape because I go to the gym 7 days a week. So to speak. It doesn't mean you have to go to the gym 7 days a week, by the way. I'm using this as an analogy. If I eat every day, I'll never starve. If I drink water every day, I'll never dehydrate. If I breathe all the time, I'll always have oxygen. But people say, I meditate once a week or once a month. I'm like, now you don't know what the feeling that you're searching for.
I'm only conscious or aware once a month. That's what we're getting at. You want to be conscious. If
you make it your practice, you make it your daily practice, you'll know what it feels like. And just knowing what it feels like, you don't even need a story anymore. This isn't going to upset you. Because I know what it feels like to feel good. But most people know what it feels like to feel angry, so the first emotion they jump to is anger or frustrated. And when they go into bed, guess what the emotion they love the best? It's called anxiety. Oh my God, I can't sleep.
Are the bills going to be paid? Can I do this? What about this? What if this were to happen?
People don't worry about not sleeping at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. It's at night. It's a habitual thing, right?
Well, that and how our bodies work is we have wired them where, that little oxytocin or whatever these little chemicals that are released in our brain, your body's saying, hey, you're normally upset right now. Hey, you're normally afraid right now. You're
Cortisol,
normally nervous right now. Yeah, all those different chemicals that are released into our mind or into our body and brain, etc. We have programmed responses to them. So until we change that programming, we get that feeling, that sensation.
Yeah.
And call it real.
So think about this. There's a big story. I'm just bringing this up. This came into my head. But like you're talking about AI, artificial intelligence. Your body is actually artificial intelligence. Your mind is a quantum field. Your mind could supersede and go beyond it. So people are like, oh, I'm worried about robots taking over. I'm like, they've already taken over. It's your body. Your body's like shoving food in your mouth. You don't even know it. Your body's telling you how to think about this and you don't even know it. So you're already artificial intelligence. The way to get above that into the conscious state where you control the artificial intelligence. I like the fact that there's artificial intelligence that aid me in my day-to-day work. If it wasn't here, I'd still be happy. But I am now in control of the artificial intelligence. I tell it I program it when to vacuum my house. It doesn't just start vacuuming at 12 o'clock at night when I'm trying to sleep and rolls over me. I'm the one in control of it. So when your mind controls your body, your mind is controlling the artificial intelligence. That's what your body is. Don't let it become control of it. And this is why people, oh my God, artificial intelligence is taking over. I'm like, it already has. Yeah. Just get conscious and it won't. But then, isn't it nice that there's certain jobs out there that no one wants that there's technology to do it for us?
Absolutely.
Yeah. If it wasn't for technology today, me and Mike wouldn't be able to broadcast. Well, I shouldn't say we wouldn't. We would have found a way.
Yeah.
But it's easier. And it's easier for everyone to have their voice out there. So what's going on? What's this new platform going on? It's no longer information. It's no longer enough to know anymore. You have to do it. If you really want to live a fulfilled life and experience something, you have to do these practices. Whatever type of meditation, walking, sitting, laying, it doesn't matter. But the concepts that me and Mike are talking about, you know these because your body already remembers them. Something innate deep inside that was very deep starts to break out.
And it's a knowing.
It is a knowing. And I was like, wow, so we're not teaching anything new here. We're just reiterating from the old, from millennia. And what happens is we're starting to remember, oh my God, this is great. I remember this. And now as I remember, I cannot go back to sleep and forget it.
And help share about, the different pitfalls and experiences that Frank and I went to. Because I know the feeling you're talking about of...
Those are my funny stories now. That's my great story.
It's scary to let go of the mental chatter when you think you need that in order to not forget to when you have to pick your kids up, when to pay your bills.
Yeah, but think about this. When don't
you
need a parachute when you're not touching land? Is when you're out in orbit, because you will not fall to the earth. We're talking about stepping out into orbit, into the conscious state. You don't need a parachute. You could just step off.
I just want people to know that they can let go of that chatter and your person. Well, the person does disappear, but what I mean is everything will get done, and in an effortless way.
It always has gotten done, even with the anxiety.
You've just been so focused on the doing that
rather than the feeling.
It's depleted so much energy, and everything becomes such of a task. But when you let go and know all will be done, and you just need to move forward, you begin to, and I even tell myself this, everything that needs to be done will be completed and done effortlessly. Yeah. And I say this to myself at the start of each day. I know everything on this to-do list will get done, but I don't sit there in my head going, oh, it's got to be done by this time, and if I don't do this, no, I move forth.
Yeah,
I control the body. I control the being, and then I allow it to play out.
Yeah, start your day getting into that supreme feeling where you don't even have a list. And then end the day with just examining your day like, okay, I got upset because that person cut me off. And just don't bring it back, but just look at it and say, okay, and just witness it. It's like, okay, no big deal. No big deal. And then do that. And over time, all of a sudden the checklist at the end of your day is very short. You end up just going to sleep, doing it again. Don't harp on it, but just notice it. And then preset at night, feeling good, do breathing exercises, dream about the next day, but let go of the image and have the feeling and then fall asleep. And when you wake up, get the exhilarating feeling, get going. Like, okay, now this meditation morning is more energetic, where the one at night was just somber, kicking in the melatonin. The one in the morning is actually picking up my serotonin. And then step out into the world and watch what happens. It's coming home like, oh, you're not going to believe what happened today. It's kind of like how me and Mike start every conversation.
I love that.
That's it. And that's the shift of perspective.
That is.
All right.
Thank you guys for joining us this week. If you like what you heard, go ahead and subscribe below. If you have any specific questions or just want to reach out and talk about anything, you can send us an email at perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com. We do go through and read all of those.
Yeah, and please, hey, go and do these practices and write them down. If you want to put in the comment section what your experience are, we like that because we can relate to that way. Because a lot of times when people have meditation, like, am I doing it right? I'm doing it wrong. The truth is you're not. But just...
There's no wrong way.
Yeah, whatever's coming up is being pulled up to the surface. It's like what they call cleaning the swamp. You're dredging up the swamp. That's okay. Once you get the stuff up, you could scoop it out.
Well, the funny thing is we've gone through school and everything so much, and so we think that we need to validate everything we do. When the one concept Frank and I are talking about is there is no wrong way to do this.
No, there isn't.
There isn't. This work is simply you becoming aware of everything that's going on. So if you're aware that that feeling feels uncomfortable or whatever way, you did it because you're aware of it. Now let go of it. You're just becoming more and more conscious of your thoughts, your emotions, etc., and the role you play in them, which is I give them the light. I give them a perspective.
Yeah. All right. Well, peace out.
See you guys next week.
All right.